Thanks for checking out the Mike Rochester YouTube channel. It's pretty cold outside, so we're going to do this in the house. We're going to do an unboxing and assembly. This is an e-bike from a company called HAOQI. It's the Cheetah electric fat tire bike. We're going to unbox it, we're going to assemble it. We'll test ride and review it in a separate video. So let's get started. So there it is. We'll go ahead and cut the side of the box. Pull out some of our stuffing. That's a big tire. Go ahead and put that aside. Look at that color. Pop that one off. Box of parts here. Nice metal fenders. A bike pump. Back rack. Last but not least, our handlebars. I really like those grips. Okay, let's take a look at what comes in the box. Nice Allen wrench. Front headlight. Tail light, which is powered. Left and right pedals. Bunch of zip ties. Couple extra screws, quick release for the front tire, owner's manual, and this is most likely our charger, which it is. Instructions, our charger, and our cord. Okay, here's everything that came in the box. What we're going to do is assemble our handlebars. I like this Allen wrench that came with it. It looks like each one of these has a screw and a washer, so just keep track of them. Okay, you want to make sure as you're putting your handlebars on that they're going the right direction. You can kind of see here we needed to turn them in. You just want to be mindful of how they're going to mount up here. So it came with our display mounted. I'm seeing that more and more, and I do like that. So this is just going to go on like this, and we're going to basically just reassemble the way we took them off. You don't want to pinch any of the wires as you're putting the screws in, so be mindful of that as you're reassembling the handlebars. Just get them all started. So when you're screwing in the handlebars, you want to basically go from top to bottom, and kind of crisscross it so that you're evenly tightening them down. Handlebars assembled. Simple as that. Next thing we'll do is we'll mount our front tire. Because I'm alone, I'm just going to go ahead and flip the bike over so that we can assemble the front tire easily. We'll take off some of this packing. This plastic piece here was just for shipping, so we're going to pop that out. Once we pull this spacer out, you're not going to want to touch that front brake because we don't want to squeeze them brakes and let the pistons touch, because then you'll have problems. Once that comes together, they won't go back in. That's what the spacer does, it keeps the gap there. So now it's out. We're going to go ahead and attach our front tire, and we want the rotor to go right down in this groove here, and then our tire to lock right in. So let's go ahead and get that set up. So we want to take our front tire, and we want to have the rotor go right between those brake pads and then rest right in position here. Just like that. Perfect. And now we're going to put our skewer on. We're going to go ahead and install our skewer through the front of the axle. You want to make sure that the narrow side of these springs is facing toward the inside of the tires. So you can see how the narrow sides to the inside, the narrow sides to the inside, that's how we're going to send it right through. So we'll take this one off. We'll keep our spring just the way it is. We'll stick our skewer right into this side of the axle. small side of the spring in. So over on this side, we're going to take our spring and our nut, our spring and our end cap, and put it right on here. And we're going to go ahead and tighten it down. There's got to be tension on this as you're tightening it down. If you could pull this lever down really easy, that's not tight enough. You want to go a couple more turns. You want to make sure there's resistance. When you push it down, you really feel the pressure. And it should leave an impression on your finger. Then you know you really kind of pushed it down tight. Slight little scrape, but that's going to be a real easy fix. Most all tires scrape when you install them. It's just part of assembling in a bike. You can always count on maybe needing to do a little brake adjustment. That's barely scraping though. So that's great. Let's go ahead and flip the bike back over. It's a decently heavy bike. The next thing we're going to do is assemble our front fender with light. Just go ahead and back the screw out that's in here. So there's a nut and a washer on one side and a washer on this side. So just keep that in mind. Now our fender, we're going to kind of just slide it in right underneath here. It's going to come up just like this. I don't know if you can see that good. It'll come up like this. But we're also going to want to get our light on there. So we'll put our light, I think that'll be better in the back here rather than in the front. Yeah, we're going to mount it just like this. So that'll be our light mounted on with our fender. Take our screw, stick it in here. We'll leave it kind of at the halfway point there. Here's where we'll add our washer and our nut. I'm going to hold the back side of the nut. Go ahead and screw this in. So these are some nice fenders, and some people may not want them on the bike. If you're going to be doing a lot of off-roading, a lot of people may take them off. I'm going to leave them on. Our weather is usually pretty wet. So this is the assembly for the front fender and the light. Now we'll go ahead and plug in our light. I'll run that right through the middle there. No sense in waiting. The light's a little loose, so we'll go ahead and tighten that down as well. That's good. See, now it has some flexibility there. Maybe we can go a little tighter. Nice. Perfect. And it's plugged in. Light and front fender. Now we'll move to the back rack and the back light. The next thing that we're going to assemble is going to be our rear fender and our back rack. Looks like our rear fender is going to go like this. And then there's a hole here, which I'm guessing is going to screw up into that back rack. Inside the box we had a couple screws. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say those screws are for that fender. There we go. Found our screws. The first step we're going to have to do is screw the fender from underneath. Let me see if I can get that started. I'm sure this would be really easy with the back tire off. Rather than keep trying to mess around and get this lined up and hold both, I'll put the back rack on. Once the back rack is on, it's going to screw in here. So maybe I'm going to do that first and try that out. I'm going to go ahead and attach the fender to the back rack. So we'll just drop the screw in there. We'll line her up here. I want to get this kind of lined up. So now maybe I can flip the bike over and have an easier time trying to screw that bottom screw in. Okay, now that we have the back rack and fender mounted very loosely, I am going to try to get this screw underneath and screwed back in this hole, because the fender's held into place now quite nicely. So as I was trying to tighten the bolt up into mount the back fender to the frame, The bolt was really tight, so I kept torquing it down, torquing it down, torquing it down. I should have backed it out. I may have cross-threaded it, I'm not sure, but I thought only a couple more turns and it would be tightened down. And the bolt actually broke off inside the frame. A lot of people don't use the fenders, but I do. So I like the fender on there, so I'm gonna have to see what I can do to fix that. But for now, I'll use a zip tie, which I'm sure is gonna be just fine. And that's really actually tight right there. So let me go ahead and cut it, and we're gonna go with that for now. Just gonna cut the end off of this. Okay, and the fender and the back rack are assembled. Now let's put our light on the back. So let's go ahead and assemble the tail light now. It looks like our tail light is gonna mount just like this. So we'll go ahead and unscrew the nuts off of here. Stick her through here just like that. And we'll put our nuts back on the end. Get our nuts started on here. Once you get it on, you're not gonna use the wrench yet. Just kind of spin it. Then just use the wrench for the last few turns to make sure it's tightened down. Okay, that's pretty tight. Okay, now that our tail light's assembled, we're gonna go ahead and hook up the power. If you notice here, this blue wire is going to go into the blue wire that's on the back of that tail light, and we're going to run the wire up, run it right up the rack here. I don't know if there's a right or a wrong way to run that, but I'm just going to run it where I think it's going to work for me. You want to make sure that you're going to be very careful not to clip into the wires here, because look at this. There are wires right near these zip ties, so you just want to go in there really gently and make sure you just have the zip tie. You usually got to make a couple cuts at it. Take it really slow. Now we'll kind of see how long this wire is and kind of map out where we're going to run it. I think we can go right up this direction. Stick our first one right here. It's our first zip tie. And we're going to kind of come this way here. Take it right on the inside here. So I'll put my second zip tie right here. Come around here. So where we're going here is I'm going to keep coming up here. I'm going to put a zip tie here, and then we're going to run this right up in position to connect with our backlight. And just to get the wire from dangling around, we'll go ahead and plug it right in now. Next thing I'm going to do is put a tie right up here. Kind of hide it behind the rack so you're not seeing it. Another one down here. We'll just go ahead and snip the excess off. We kind of hid it behind the back rack so you don't see it. The wire runs behind it, comes around here, and then goes. So the back rack, the fender, and the back light are assembled. Okay, so we'll uncover our seat. And you can kind of see, we'll just make sure that the seat's nice and tight. We're gonna slide it down. And then we latch it. Probably give it a little bit more tightening here, so we'll turn it one turn. There we go, that's nice and snug. And there it is. Pretty cushy. Let's get started on the pedals. First thing we'll do is put on the right pedal. Now folks, remember, there's a right and a left. I'm sure everyone knows that, but I'm always gonna say it. There's a right and a left pedal. Just make sure you take a look so you don't put the wrong one on. Get her nice and tight. Make it a little snug. Perfect. We'll do the other side. nice and snug, pedals assembled. Now what we want to do is you definitely want to go over the bike and check for any loose bolts or screws. You may not have tightened something up, but you should still be checking it to make sure it's tight. For example, we never did anything with that rear tire, but you should be checking those bolts to make sure that they're tight. And that's going to wrap this one up for the unboxing and assembly of the HAOQI Cheetah.